Hey everybody, welcome to Unmuted. I am your host, Chris Williams, and today's conversation is going to be a little different because, listen, I don't have a how I made $10 million overnight story. I actually have a how I fell flat on my face as it related to my first acquisition story. So listen, this is for you if you've ever been afraid to start down the acquisition process, or maybe you're sitting there with regret, wondering, oh, I'm in the middle of it and should I keep going? And it seems frustrating. Listen, I've been there. I get it. I want to help you just understand the 5 lessons that I've gotten from my first failed acquisition. Now, just to give you some context so you can kind of understand like my journey, I honestly, I did 18 years of corporate America. So working in financial services, back and forth, laid off twice. I climbed the ladder, got to a point that I was really comfortable, but I knew if I took the next step, it was going to be like my whole world was going to change, which at the time my kids were young and I didn't want to like miss those times and the young in the marriage and all those different things were going on. So I found a good spot and I absolutely loved what I did. Absolutely loved what I did. And the kicker was at the time was that it was an interest, right? Like it was like, oh, wait a second. So you mean to tell me I can, instead of like starting a company, I can just go out and buy one that's already seasoned, that's already proven model, proven business, proven team, proven organization, and it works. Cool. Well, let me just go down that path, right? And so the most interesting thing about doing that for me was it was exciting. And it was something my wife and I had talked about, and it was like, wow, like I really want to, explore this. And so I spent like a year, 2 years maybe, kind of going down that path, just learning, looking at different businesses, understanding kind of what makes them work, what takes, what I want to do with these 5 lessons is I just want to help you. If you're starting down that path of potentially thinking about acquisitions, this is for you. If you're in the middle of it, I'm going to give you some hope. If you've already been through an acquisition and lived to tell about it, let's talk about that in the comments below. And I also have some resources available to you in the link in the description that will just help you as it relates to dealing with your first acquisition. Now, listen, just to help you understand, it did not go as planned. Okay. So my first acquisition idea failed. And what it did not give me, it actually gave me some wisdom that I want to pass on to you. All right. So first and foremost, let me give you kind of the 5 things that I learned in the middle of the mess. And I know this should bless you the way it has blessed others in some private conversations. So first of all, I want you to start the journey or your next acquisition. I want you to start it with clarity and not hype. What do I mean by that? There's a lot of conversation. There are a lot of people who are like, pumping, buy a business, right? And there's lots of different ways you could go about that. Franchises, so you're going to hear people saying buy a business, but really it's like a Subway, it's a laundromat, it's a franchise, it's a franchise, right? And that is a path, and I'm not knocking that. But then there's also brick and mortar. Then there's digital businesses, right? So kind of in those 3 realms, right? There's businesses to buy. And what happens is there's a lot of hype around it. You're going to see videos and podcasts and all kind of, oh, you should build a business, buy a business. And, in 6 months, your life could change. Yeah, that's true. But that's not always the normal 98% of situations that you're going to run into. So here's what I want you to understand in this first lesson that I realized. Don't fall in love with the deal. Fall in love with the data. Because the data is telling you the truth about where that business is, how healthy that business is, what is the missed flags about that business. And by the way, what I don't want you to do is go in and like be scared of the data. Because the truth of the matter is, there's not a business alive that does not have problems. That's why you're in business. You have a business to solve a problem for said customer, but then as you grow that business, there are going to be internal problems that you have to solve for. So you're always solving for the external and internal. There's nothing wrong with the problems. The question is, are you okay with being the person that is constantly willing to solve said problems? Okay, so don't get upset with the data that you see. You just got to ask yourself, as you see certain things pop up, when you fall in love with the data, are you okay with what the issues are? Like, just be willing to go in eyes wide open, but don't like fall in love with the deal. Don't fall in love with the EBITDA. Don't fall in love with the actual information about the company. Fall in love with understanding what is really going on. What is the actual product or service? What are they actually selling? Who actually is running this? What is actually going on internally, right? Like, those are the things that I want you to fall in love with. Why? Because in lesson number 2, this was a huge aha as I was going through my first one, which is due diligence isn't just a checklist, but it's actually a character test. I'm telling you right now, due diligence is not just a checklist, but it is a true character test. Because here's what I found out. If you just do surface level reviews and you don't really dive deep into the systems and the leadership or the liabilities, you are setting yourself up for failure. I'm just being honest with you, okay? Due diligence doesn't just expose the business, but it really actually exposes you. You, the buyer. Yeah, you and I. So, as I remember about like maybe the third or fourth business was looking into to potentially buy, right? And as we was looking into it, it seemed like a really, like on the surface, yes, I liked it. And I'm gonna kind of give you like what was going on with me and my parameters, right? One, I liked it because it fit my skill set, meaning if I had to jump in and do this business day one, I could. I actually could. Number 2, I was like, ooh, there's so many ways. I started dreaming, which don't do that in the beginning, but I started dreaming of all the ways we could revamp the business and all the ways I could. You shouldn't do that in the beginning, but I was, right? So now I'm eating the fruit of some future that ain't even real yet, right? And I was overlooking some of the most glaring stuff about that particular business. Here was a couple of things that I was overlooking. Number 1, I was overlooking the fact that that business, when the owner steps away, does not run. How about that? So the owner couldn't actually step away because it all was basically, the majority of the business was based on the owner. The second thing that I was basically overlooking was the fact that this was if you don't have it now, you don't have it later. What do I mean by that? They lived contract to contract. They didn't have any real reoccurring revenue. And by the way, by the time the contracts came and they had like some they basically kind of mainly government contracts, it could be months and months and months before there was actually an approval of a contract, much less a payout. So when I was looking at the numbers, what I didn't get from just a surface level review, you know what I wasn't seeing? By the time I actually dug into the financial reports and the real due diligence, oh, they got paid in April, didn't get paid again till June, didn't get paid until October. Right? It's like, wait a minute, why is there gaps in money? Oh, because those are the only times that they actually got approvals for contracts. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you right now, it's a character test. The due diligence is going to test your character to see if you can just mentally stay focused on the data. That's why number 1 was fall in love with the data. Not all the hype of the deal and all of that stuff. Because when you get to due diligence, which is lesson 2, you have to remain honest with yourself. Don't dream about the future. Don't do none of that. Where is the business today? Is it healthy? Because that's actually what you're buying. Right? So I really want you to know that. Number 3, let's talk about number 3. And my just lessons that I learned, man, from building a business. And again, if you're enjoying this, you can grab some of the resources down below, because if you're getting ready to buy a business, or you're like kind of getting ready to pull the trigger and you might just want to pause for a second and make sure you're doing something. I've built something for you. It's called Acquisition Playbook Pro. It's down in the comments below. Grab those resources, man, because those resources are going to be able to help you just with the jargon, with the information, with the, the stuff about it. So that way, if this is your first time, I just want you to be able to walk in like a pro, right? Just to be able to know like, oh, okay, here's what I need to know. I've got a glossary in there, a ton of stuff, but that's available for you. So let's get into number 3. Number 3 is one that is big to me. This was one of my main core skills when I worked in corporate, which I love talking about culture of a business. I love talking about the culture of an organization. I love talking about the culture of people that are in that organization, right? Culture is the people, the systems, the tools, the environment. It's all of the stuff, right? It's the intangible, most valuable asset of any business is the culture, right? And so number 3 is culture will cost you more than cash flow. I'm going to say that again. Culture will cost you more than cash flow. Because if you ignore the team dynamics, if you ignore the owner's dependency on the business of the product or service, if you ignore the customer relationships, you are ignoring the very culture of the business that you are buying. And it is the most intangible asset of any business. And it's the most expensive. So listen, culture will cost you more than cash flow. Why is this important? So in a couple of other businesses that I was looking at, actually the business that I really honed in on and it was like, yes, let's go. This is the one. It took a while after signing the paperwork. It took a while as we were going through due diligence. It took a while. This was like a almost year and a half long process to start to unravel some of the threads of this business and ultimately understanding that, wait a second, this particular business is heavily dependent on the owner. The owner built if you just looked at the numbers, healthy reoccurring revenue. If you just looked at the numbers, they were growing like crazy. If you just looked at that was great. The financial due diligence, awesome. But the culture of the business, not so great. Because a toxic culture will bankrupt you in ways QuickBooks cannot track. I'm going to say it again. The toxic culture that could be prevalent in the business that you're buying can bankrupt you in ways that QuickBooks cannot track. I'll give you an example. So in the middle of the due diligence, looking at things, again, I'm drifting, I'm dreaming, I'm excited. And the business was healthy financially. Don't get me wrong. It was great. But what was happening was I started to uncover, because I'm the type of person, I ask a lot of questions. I am a question person. I am asking a lot of questions, different ways, over and over and over. That's just me because I like to understand, right? So if I don't understand something, I'm asking questions. So if you're ever with me, cool tip, and I'm asking you a lot of questions, it's mainly because I just don't understand yet and it hasn't clicked for me yet. So let's keep trying until I get it, right? So anyway, I started asking questions about the culture, the team, and how the group worked. And they had probably about 23 to 30 some employees, mainly contractors, kind of working all the divisions of the business. And when we started talking about what the transition would look like, when we started talking about what was happening and where the people were and kind of what was going on, I quickly started to realize those people basically almost had like a soul tie, if you will, to the owner, not to the actual business. Here's how I found that out. As I started to understand the stories of the key leaders, of the people under contract who were doing great, like the head of sales was crushing it for this business. But the way he came into the business was because he was in need and the owner helped him out. And the owner was able to meet that need by giving them the job. And the owner basically gave them what they needed. But that person basically felt loyal and extremely loyal to just the owner only. So wherever the owner was going to go, the head of sales, the top salesperson, was basically going to leave. because the owners had built the business around them and the way they do things, which there's nothing wrong with that. I think every owner in some respects is building a business based on the way they want to do things in a lifestyle. But here's the hidden danger in that. The hidden danger in that is if all of those people who are working in your business are not there for the business, but they're there for you, it is quite possible that you will never be able to truly leave the business. And because when you do, all the money's going to drop because people are going to walk away or whatever the case may be. If you go off to do something else, that business is over, right? So those are the types of things that you have to be mindful of. But just remember, culture will cost you more than cash flow, man. You have to make sure that the culture is there, that it's sustainable, that it's healthy. One of the ways I would tell you to handle it is interview the staff during due diligence. Like, yes, ask for interviews of the staff. Understand the seller's leadership style. Understand, what is their style? How do they operate? What is the ways that they go about things? And this is what I would say, just look for the owner traps, right? Is everybody loyal to just the owner, right? How did everybody come into the business? What is it that they're there for, right? Just those are some things around culture, okay? Number 4 of these lessons that I've learned of just, going through the acquisition process and failing in my first one, you don't have to know everything, but you need to know who does. You don't have to know everything, but you really, really need to know who does, okay? Because here's what I got this right in the beginning, but as we were going through it, I just realized how important it was, how crucial it was. And I just wanted to always capture this. Because if you're trying to go after buying a business solo, you're basically trying to wing it through the legal, through the financial, and through all the lending conversations. And I'm just going to say it plainly, that's just dumb. That's going to cost you more than it would having the right team around you and paying the right people the first time. Look, don't be afraid to pay for expertise. And I'm going to just say this right now. If you're afraid to pay people and you don't want to pay people for their information, you're trying to, bootstrap it, if you will, acquisitions is probably not for you. Meaning if you want to do it right and do it healthy and don't want to burn through a bunch of money, the wrong way. I'm just going to tell you right now, I learned so much behind the team that we had. And yes, I consider the first acquisition that I tried a failure just because we didn't acquire it. But there was actually a lot of wins along the way, meaning I really respected my team. I was so thankful for the red flags that my team caught. I was so thankful for the things that we were able to navigate in through some tough conversations. So yes, it was ultimately a failure because we didn't acquire, but there was a lot of wins along the way. And it's mainly because I didn't know everything personally, but I at least had people who knew. I had a transaction coordinator. I had a legal person. I hired an attorney who knew what to do at close and how to handle due diligence. We hired a firm to do our due diligence for us. So my point is you don't need to know everything, but you just need to know who does. Lone wolves will starve in the M&A process. So you got to find your pack. I'm telling you right now, a lone wolf, you will starve. Because you think you know it all because maybe you started a small business before on the side. Acquisitions is completely different than starting your own business. I'm telling you that right now. It's very, very different. The process is different. The way you go about things is different. The emotional ties that you end up navigating and fighting through with the owners and all the stuff, it's just different. It's just different, okay? So don't be a lone wolf. Find your pack, all right? Now, let's get to the last one, number 5 of these lessons. Hey, if you've been enjoying this and this is helpful to you, just comment down below which one is helpful to you and what, you're going to, take away from. And just, the end number 4, actually, let me kind of give you a couple of keys to that one is build an acquisition crew, right? Get a lawyer, get a CPA, get an M&A advisor, get an operator friend, right? Somebody who's operated before or willing to operate, but just get a team, get a pack, right? And really work through this process. So let's dive into the last one, number 5, on this journey of the 5 major lessons that I just want to be able to give you over my, first, failed acquisition journey. And again, I have some resources. Check the link below in the description. I created a little small playbook, just stuff that I wish I would have had when I started, called Acquisition Playbook Pro. You can grab it, grab the documents, learn. It should help you just frame yourself around this process and this game. So number 5, here's the biggest one. Quite honestly, failure doesn't disqualify you, but fear does. I'm telling you right now, the biggest thing for me was that failure did not disqualify me. Just because you failed, you know how many people are failing in acquisitions? And I was doing one that, wasn't, huge, but it was sizable. But, there's failed acquisitions at 300 million. There's failed acquisitions at 100 million. Okay, it failed. But it's the fear that disqualifies you, not the fact that you attempted the acquisition. Thinking that one failed deal it means that you're not cut out for this, or that it's beyond you, or it's for somebody else. Listen, that is the place that I do not want you to be at. I don't want you to think that acquisitions is not for you. I don't want you to think that this path, out of corporate America into acquisitions might be a problem for you. Listen, it's not an issue. You failed. But what did you learn? I'm giving you my learnings. There's some things that you learn along the way. And what do you do with those learnings? You don't bury them in a journal, never to be looked at again. You take them into the next deal and you get better. You don't make the same mistakes. You ask the better questions along the way, right? You didn't fail. You just found one more way that it doesn't work. And now you know. Thank you, Albert Einstein. You are now Albert Einstein. He found 10,000 ways that it didn't work to make a light bulb. Great. You just found a way that it didn't work. Okay, fine. But here's what I would say. Get back on the horse as fast as you can without waiting for your feelings. Because now it's fresh in your mind, right? And you can do something with that information. Reflect on it, recalibrate about it, and get back in the game, because you now have more than, I would say, about 90% of wisdom than everybody else who's at the same place that you are in this acquisition game, if you so choose to play the acquisition game. Why? Because you're starting from experience with acquisition 2, not 0 like you were with the first one. All right? So I'm just telling you, really, really important stuff. So just to kind of wrap this up, I would say that the biggest thing for me was to realize I actually can do this game. There are opportunities out here. I just got to continue to look for them. And there's opportunities out there for you. Maybe your first shot doesn't land, and that's okay. But at least it does put you on the map, right? Like, keep building, keep learning, keep growing. You don't have to be perfect, because some of the people that I've talked to who've done these, I've talked to people who've done like 30 transactions. I've talked to people who've done, 5. I've talked to a lot of different people from different, walks of life. Can I tell you something? This is the most interesting part. They have more confidence because they kept going than just because some of them were successful. It's because they're like, I kept going, and it's like, now I get the game. I understand the game better, right? And so I don't want you to quit. Don't feel like a failure. Don't feel like this is over, or I've lost too much. You didn't lose anything. You gained some experience. So listen, if this helped you, don't stay silent. Send this to somebody, encourage somebody else who's thinking about the acquisition game. Use the link in the description below, grab the resources, and listen, man, this is Unmuted with Chris Williams, man. I thank you for watching. Give us a share, a like, a comment, a subscribe, and man, just stick around, stay tuned for the next episode, and man, continue down the game of acquisitions, because it's a fun, exciting world. If that's the world you choose, I'd love to be able to hear your stories. Put them down in the comments below. We'll look forward to seeing you in the next episode.